weekly quizzes, so it's gonna be 10 items, and it'll take just about as long. It's not gonna be any longer or anything. It is comprehensive. It's gonna cover, the key elements of each of the 4 weeks that we spent together. But it's not gonna be any longer, and it's not gonna be, like I said, it's nothing tricky, okay? But it is gonna be applied to make sure that you understand these concepts at a conceptual level, and that you do go back and spend these next couple of days and the weekend going back to the readings. Anything that y'all skipped over, and anything that I went over fast in class because you were supposed to do a lot of it in the independent study time, you can go back to do that stuff. Because all those days that we don't see each other is the days you're supposed to really dive into the readings, but I know it's a very fast-paced semester. But this will give you that time just to kind of do that and reinforce these concepts. So this is gonna be back in there again, because this is kind of the gist of the class. So in learning modules 6 and 7, those first PowerPoints, the non-discriminatory assessment process. This one, general non-discriminatory assessment process. You're gonna have these 10 steps. I'm gonna have you list these out, but once we get here, 8, 9, 10, you're gonna give me explicit names of the tests you're gonna use here. Starting here. Okay, what do you use? And of course, it's not exhaustive. I'm not gonna ask you to give me all the formal standardized measures of language proficiency. You're gonna give me the explicit name of one. You're not gonna just say a formal measure, okay? And then it'll also say, you know, those explicit measures, I'm gonna say that term, you know, explicitly list the name of the instrument you will use. And then plus the best practice, so then that best practice would be standardized measure plus possibly home language survey, TELPAS, you know, whatever else it is, but at least list one more and be able to say that I need this plus all this other kind of informal stuff that y'all have all talked about in class, okay? Then I'm gonna ask you here, explicit, and when I say explicit, that means you have to name it. Method for reducing bias in traditional assessment practices. What will be the explicit method way to reduce cultural and linguistic bias in our assessment practice?
Are you asking right now?
Yeah.
A nonverbal or language reduced
Okay.
measure,
Okay.
like, ABC.
Yep. Yep.
Or
And this.
unit.
Yep. So the explicit method would be utilizing a nonverbal or language reduced. Okay, that's the explicit name. That's absolutely true. Another explicit method that is actually the same thing that you said, but just more umbrella, would say utilizing a cross-battery methodology. You know, incorporating the nonverbals or those that are language reduced. That would be the extent of it, but it's explicitly naming those techniques and methods you're using. And that's just to drive home the point. These are not terms we're just making up, or like, hey, you know, I'm crossing instruments. It's like, these are research-based methods and techniques that hopefully y'all are becoming more fluent in the technical names of them. So that I want that with the test. I want you to do that for this class with that. Okay, with this exam. And then here on 10 is just explicitly stating here what you would do. Support conclusions and data convergence, multiple indicators. So explicit naming would be all the times I explicitly stated data convergence triangulation, right? Is looking at the preponderance of data, and that's all it is. It's looking at everything for what does most of the data say. That's the extent of it. So it's knowing that just conceptually you all know how to work through this process. You know that all your assessment procedures will rely on that language proficiency. Then you're gonna utilize methods to reduce language to the extent possible. And then when working with these populations, I'm looking at the convergence of data. I'm looking at the preponderance of data. Again, best practices, right? I mean, there's all the stuff we do for every student. That would be it. This is gonna be one item. That's gonna be worth a lot, but this is one item. Okay, and then the next piece that I'm gonna do is MANBI. I'm gonna give you two MANBI charts. Go back to that. Okay, not that one yet, I'm gonna show you. Super easy. Two MANBI charts, I'm gonna give you, and this is the chart you're gonna see. So it's two MANBI questions, really, it's the same chart. But I'm gonna give you two different profiles that have the grade, history, and then this language profile, and you're gonna plot it and you're gonna tell me which one. I wanna know you can use MANBI, that you can use it in your practice. super easy, super easy. Because, TJ, you had a good point, everybody has a good point in terms of, there's some things that I cannot really look at objectively, this is one that I can look at objectively in terms of, hey, tell me that you can use this, tool effectively. So you'll have two different profiles and you just gotta plot it. So I'm gonna say, let's go for example here, let's start at the far, left-hand side. Currently in bilingual education, that's their instructional history, let's just say I'm picking that one. Then I'm gonna say they are in K through 4, they're first grade, say they're first grade. Minimal across. Okay, and it's gonna tell me nonverbal. It's gonna tell me nonverbal. Okay, minimal across. And there's only one option there. Minimal across both those language profiles. So you would just tell me, what does the Manbeat chart tell you as the best language of assessment? What does the Manbeat tell you? If you don't feel confident enough in your ability to kind of detect that, and I think all of y'all are there, show me you can use the tool that's gonna help you find the best language assessment. This was me when I was a grad student. I was like, you know what, I don't trust myself enough yet. Give me a tool, give me the information, and I'll tell you it's gonna be a nonverbal based on the data you gave me and based on what I know about the student. Okay, you'll have two of these. Let me know if you have questions while we're looking at it. Does this seem easy enough?
Yes.
Some people yes, some people no. Yes.
Yes.
Janet, talk
No,
to me.
no, don't put me on the spot.
Concerns.
No, nothing,
I think we just all, like, being at the end of the summer semester, I was just like, I think we're just all anxious. Like, I think it's not even the content or the quizzes, I think we're just anxious. You know what I mean? Am I wrong? Maybe it's just me.
no,
Are we all
it's,
anxious? Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
No, I get it, and that's why I did this. That's why I was like, let me tweak it, I'm not even, this is easier in my eyes, and Tony Obama, than even just giving y'all a language profile, L1, L2, and y'all telling me what the measure is. This is easier, just going down the vertical and horizontal and finding the assessment. And I was like, I have to see, can they find it and can they use the tool to do that? That's the most objective way to do it. TJ, what do you think? Does it pass the test in terms of objectivity?
I'm trying to like look at it, and maybe it's because I'm blind.
It might be the case, cause
It might be, it's just that hard for me to like understand what I'm looking at right now, because I can't really see. But if I'm to understand what I'm looking at, this one specifically is like, you're gonna give us this picture and it's language profile 1, L1 minimal, L2 minimal, so that would be nonverbal, and then we would say what nonverbal test we would use.
Nope, just, you don't have to do that, just tell me
Just
what,
say
yep.
That is nonverbal.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Like that layer, you just gave me another idea, but I'm not gonna do that. That would be best.
Shut up.
Here's an idea. Let's just
I'm
do
trying to
the
make sure I
potluck.
That would extend it further, and I know y'all could do that, if it lands on what nonverbal, y'all be able to say
Absolutely can't
Rex
do
or
that,
nonverbal, you know,
actually.
or whatever. But, no, I'm just gonna ask you, what does the Manbeat tell you is the best mode or language of assessment? Okay, so here, it's like any other kind of matrix, is just like, go follow with what I gave you, and I'm gonna give you this exact language, I'm not coming up with my stuff, like the vignette is gonna be this. Like currently in a bilingual education program, I just give you all that example. First grade, language profile, L1 is minimal, L2 is minimal. What does it matter? So you gotta follow it kind of the horizontal and vertical, and then it lands on that nonverbal, and that's it. That's the assessment mode. Okay, I'll give you all two of those. But it do exactly, the objective of an item like this is do exactly what TJ said. You have to go back and study, do I know how to use this? Do I know what it's telling me? So you gotta go back and just look at this and really review this. And this is a tool, like I said, that's been used for about a decade, and it's continued to be used to help practitioners identify the language assessment. Okay, I'll move on. Did you have a question over there? No questions or no clarifying, nothing? You're good?
I'm just explaining.
Okay, perfect. And then finally, I'm gonna give you two C-lim graphs. Can you use this? Your supervisor prints it off for you, because they might do that. Cause they're like, I have the software, you don't, give me your scores real quick, and I'm gonna just put in the XBAS for you, that's the name of the software. And I'm gonna print out the print off. Takes a few seconds, you might see this, this is something, like I said, that's used, very widely, because again, it's super quick and efficient, it doesn't take any time. I'm gonna give you this, and you're gonna have to interpret it. So if you're struggling, it's just going back to the interpretation week, right, when we talked about interpretation, they're all titled accordingly, and there's, how do I make sense of the CLIM?
Are we just saying it's like a
Valid or invalid? Yep.
Okay.
That's it, that's all you have with this. Yep.
In this example, this would indicate that language is not the only factor in their performance.
Language and culture, yep, it's not following any descending trend, it's all over the place. You got high scores, in fact, across, there's just,
Yeah, it was like.
yeah. Again, this is on the cognitive profile, right? This is on the cognitive. So from what you're seeing here, scores are valid, they're not showing any trend, not primarily predominantly due by culture and language, you proceed, but that's, okay? And those of you who want kind of more exposure to it, in those modules, I have that canned language that the XBAS prints out for you. You'll have two of these, and that's all you have to do, that's all you can interpret. And again, I have to be objective, I wanna be objective for you, I'm not trying to give you this crazy vignettes that y'all practice with, so that was good over practice and over learning, so y'all can do, totally easy on this. Who was present for any of the practice with those kind of vignettes that TJ had? Did y'all end up doing that?
Oh, for the assessment, building thing, yeah. We did, but it wasn't like super detailed in that.
Okay.
I gave like little scenarios of like, this is a 12th grader and this is how they're showing in class, and then parents or teachers are referring for this, and then we were like, what test would you give and what would you be testing for in that?
That's good. So that's good, but that's more difficult than something like this. Okay, so y'all have to practice that. Finally, you'll have two different vignettes that's gonna give you the case data. And you're gonna have to make sense of that data and those scores where you can generate evidence-based intervention. It's gonna be so, specific in terms of the needs for that student. With specific scores, that now that y'all done the reading of that whole week dedicated to interventions, you've done all the evidence-based intervention briefs, you all know those essential components, those evidence-based components, you should easily be able to generate some recommendations and intervention for a student if given some scores. Okay, you're gonna have two cases that's gonna give you scores. So not to interpret and write a report, all that stuff, I've done that again, that's too subjective, I think there's too much kind of, to really get at, do you know what low scores on, picture naming, automatic naming, like those types of things, do you know what to do with that when you see super low scores in just reading areas, or super low scores in just math areas, or super low scores on some of those cognitive areas? What do we do, what do we address? You should be able to do that by this point. And those of you who spend time in the modules, I give you all that stuff, and they're supplemental because I can't go over them in class, especially in a 4-week term like this, that's hybrid. But when you see certain cognitive deficits, I give you all handouts and materials for like, what is it aligned with, what types of things we're working with when there's a very low score on processing speed. Okay, so you'll have two little vignettes that's gonna give you scores that have to link to some evidence-based recommendations. Two little vignettes like that. Instead of like really interpreting and making sense of that, it's more, they gotta link to evidence-based interventions.
How much detail are you expecting in that?
For that, like the level of detail, like expanding on what y'all did for the quiz today. So you just listed the timing, the vocabulary, the pacing, those things, you're gonna expand on those things. Like we need to pull out those keywords, define these keywords for them. We need to develop a graphic organizer because we're dealing with comprehension. We're gonna do summaries at the end, the beginning, like those type of things, so it's all evidence-based, it's not things you're just coming back, like just coming up with. But it's gotta be like that, so what you did today for math and reading, but you're gonna expand on that. Okay, so that covers all of them, you'll have 10 items on those things, like I said, two C-LIMs, 2 MAMBs, 2 little vignettes where you have to link to intervention, they're gonna be very, very clear in terms of those areas of need. And then that whole assessment model, working through those stages, and then explicitly telling me those things on 7 through 10.
Is there gonna be like a final review on Canvas or no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that will be, so it's gonna be stated here.
Okay,
Like all the stuff I talked about, it's gonna be there.
okay.
Okay. Tell me about what